Hi, my name is Jared Bauman, and I am the co-founder and CEO of 201 Creative. We're an online digital marketing agency. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 most important factors for your local business SEO. We're going to go through the 5 factors that you need to kind of know and understand in order to rank high on Google. And then we'll give you 3 areas to focus on for your specific website. As a note, we're talking mostly for local businesses today. There's actually a difference in local SEO versus more of a national, international SEO. So if you're a brick and mortar store, if you're selling to local clientele, if you are based out of a certain area and you sell in that area, this is going to really be focused at you. So let's go ahead and dive in here. So what is SEO? So SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's basically making your website and all of the properties you have on the web uh, able to be found, optimized to be found by search engines like Google. And really what we mean by that is that you're making your website and your web properties able to be found by your target market, by your clientele. Now, there's a lot that goes into SEO, and no, it's not dark art. It's not a black magic or anything like that. But it is a lot of algorithms. It is a lot of math. It is a lot of long-term efforts that all build to give you better rankings. So when we say ranking, we're talking about ranking higher for different searches that people make. Now, the great thing about Google and why Google matters more nowadays than ever before is because all the other channels of marketing are getting more and more and more expensive and more competitive. Why focus on SEO today when social media certainly gets is the darling child of marketing, right? But social media is fleeting, and we know that over time, every single one of these social media platforms they make it harder and harder to organically get your visibility out there. Ad rates are skyrocketing right now, and so SEO, granted, takes time, but in the long run, can really give your brand a much cheaper way of attracting your target market. That doesn't mean there isn't an investment, whether it be your time, whether it be in experts, but down the road, it isn't as fleeting. Now, SEO is different than paid ads. Paid ads, you pay either Google AdWords or you pay Facebook and you run an ad. As soon as that ad is done, the benefit goes away. When you're optimizing your site for search, is what we would call SEO, typically you're spending, whether it's time or money on the front end and not getting much reward right away. But the reward comes later. And the good thing is that the reward typically is much larger down the road than the reward you might get from running an ad or something like that. A lot of people ask if SEO is safe. And again, what we're really talking about today is nothing that is tricky. It's nothing that is meant to fool any algorithms or skirt any of the rules. We're talking about the basics, the underlying principles that make your site, make your website able to be found online, that make it attractive for your target market. That's what we're going to be going through today. There are certainly things you can do out there that aren't safe. That's why I always counsel people, be very careful with what you do with SEO. And if you're going to be doing something that you don't understand, you definitely want to make sure to run it by someone, an expert, or work with an agency on that to make sure you're not doing something that can hurt you. But again, what we're talking about today are very basic things that a lot of people aren't doing. I mean, when we look at it at our agency and when we take on a new client, I would say for what we're talking about today, very few people have done all of it. Very few people have done most of it. Only a handful of people have done some of it. So if you are able to latch on to what we're talking about today, you're going to be pretty far ahead compared to your competition. And that's the thing about local SEO is that there typically isn't a lot of people competing on the level of what we're talking about here. If you're able to grasp some of these concepts here, chances are pretty high you're going to be above the vast majority of your competition. And that's why local SEO is such a big opportunity for small businesses nowadays. So let's go ahead and dive in. So let's go ahead and talk about locally ranking, about what that looks like. What I have in front of us here is just a screenshot of a generic search term I produced. It's best chiropractor near me. This is going to be a very common type of search term that people in a locale are going to be searching for. Obviously, in this case, it's somebody who's looking for a chiropractor, and this is a very normal type of search query that we see for a local result. And up at the top, we would call that the search query. It's highlighted in blue right now. Now, of course, Google's got to get all of their ads in there right away. This is where people, other chiropractors are advertising. And what you see highlighted in green, those are not organic search results. Those are paid results. So we talked about advertising earlier, and if you wanted to place an ad, you could get your listing in that spot, but it cost you money. As soon as you stop advertising, that ad will go away and go to something else. Next, below that is what we call the map pack. That's going to be the Google local results based on your location, based on your map. And Google takes into consideration what it knows about where you are when you're doing that search. And it's going to give you several results. Almost always it's 3 results, the top 3 results. And that right there is incredibly helpful for your traffic to your site. Getting in that map pack organically is really, really powerful. Now, again, what I have in front of you is a desktop search, a search done on my desktop computer. More and more, most people are doing their searches on their phones. A lot of times people are doing searches inside of their Maps app, whether it's Google Maps or whether it's Apple Maps. And so that map pack becomes even more powerful on a mobile environment. And then down below that, we see organic results. Those organic results are the results that come from, again, from doing your SEO work to your site. Now, a couple things to note: the map pack and what it takes to rank in the map pack a little bit different than what it takes to rank organically in the organic search results. Okay. Sometimes you'll see the same company listed in the map pack and then organically below. A lot of times you'll see different companies. Looks like right now below Yelp, we have a couple of different companies, but there are companies that aren't listed up there in the map pack. And so it's a little bit different there. I have a screen off of here if you're wondering why I'm looking over here sometimes. And so what we want to do is optimize your site, your website, and your assets, your digital assets, that you can show up as high as possible in both the map pack and in the organic search results. Okay, let's talk about some numbers, statistically speaking, about what goes into ranking. What are the factors that you need to look at and be concerned with? So Moz does this local study every year. Moz is a prominent player in the search engine optimization space. This is from 2018. I'm looking forward to the 2019 results coming out soon, but the data is very pertinent. It has trended fairly similar over the last couple of years. Number one, we see that ranking locally is Google My Business. And what you do inside of your Google My Business profile has the largest factor. As a matter of fact, in this case, it was 25%. The next biggest factor is the inbound links that point to your website. We will talk about all 5 of these, by the way, today. Number 3 are your reviews. And by the way, I will note that the reviews are at 15%, links are at 16%, and then on pages at 14%. So you could call number 2, number 3, number 4 all about the same influence. And number 4 is on-page work, the work you do on your website. We're going to talk about how to improve that dramatically today. And number 5 are citations. Citations are a little bit different than inbound links. A citation is basically just an online mention of your brand. We'll talk about that as well. But these are the 5 factors you got to be paying attention to. If you don't understand what some of these are, pay attention. You'll want to know what they are. If you do understand them, you'll want to make sure that you're doing all the basics. But each of these you could deep dive and really, really optimize. For our clients, we will go in depth on usually 2 or 3 each month that we're working with them. And you can really go deep to make sure that you're optimizing for each of these. You can see here that these 5 factors, these top 5 factors, they account for 81% of your ranking capabilities. So really what we recommend is that you focus on these top 5, 80-20, right? Like focus on the factors that give you 80% of the lift to your efforts. You can also see that the Google My Business and reviews, which in our minds go hand in hand. That is, Google My Business is actually the platform where you manage many of your reviews, and they have so many things in common. And those 2 things together account for 40% of your ranking factor. And so really choosing to look at Google My Business and getting good reviews from clients, that would be a wonderful spot to start. We can also see that citations and links, which are also similar and related. Getting other brands, other people, other avenues to mention you online and link back to your site when possible, that accounts for 27% of your ranking factor. And so that's also a big deal. And then on-page work, which is actually where we're going to start today, accounts for 14% of the effort. Sometimes the on-page stuff, though, is really a lot easier. Whereas reviews and links, these are things that are somewhat out of your control, right? You rely on others to give a review of your business. You rely on others to link back to you. So those efforts, when they have a bigger impact, they can be harder to get. But on page, you can go sit down in front of your computer right now while you're watching, log into your website, and you can be improving that right now. So while on page isn't quite as vital or as important as some of the others, you have greater control over it. And so sometimes that's the best place to start. It's also where we're today. A little water here. All right, let's talk about some of the things we're going to be looking at from an on-page environment. When we say on-page, it basically is talking about your website and on the website that you see, not stuff that happens outside of your website, media platforms. It's not your web. It's not on services or software like Google My Business. It is website. At the end of the day, your website's your hub. I talk about this a lot when I speak to organizations and businesses. I talk about this hub and spoke model. And your website, at the end of the day, is where you want to drive everything to because you own it. You own Facebook or your Facebook profile. You don't own Google My Business or your Google My Business profile. You don't own any of your social media platforms, but you do own your website. And so it makes a great spot to be as a hub. And then you use all the other spokes to drive that traffic back to your hub. And so the better we can make your website, the better you're going to perform in the long run. Number one, your website needs to be mobile friendly. Okay, so load your website up on your phone. I want you to experience it as a reader. First off, careful, you might want to load it up in an incognito mode or on your phone. It might be called private mode because oftentimes the vast majority of web browsers these days, they cache your site. So I talk to a lot of business owners and I'll run a report for them and I'll say, your website is very, very slow, especially on mobile. And they'll say, my website loads really quickly. Here, watch. And they'll show me. And I said, that's because your website is cached on that device. You have already gone to your website more than likely. And when you go to your website, it caches it. It stores things so it doesn't have to download them or access them in the future, whether it be images, whether it be fonts, these types of things that can slow down your device, slow down your website are cached. And so a lot of times when I show people how it really loads, they are really shocked. And that's a big problem because with most site traffic nowadays being on your phone, being from a mobile device that someone is accessing, a site speed that is slow kills and hurts your business. So first start by experiencing it as a reader. Try to do it incognito mode. See if it's getting a slow load time. You can also head over to Google's Page Speed Insights. We have a link for it right there, and run your site and get a score. You'll want to pay attention to the mobile score because most websites nowadays are pretty good on terms of speed for desktop. When it comes to mobile devices, they're not necessarily that fast. That's where you have to go and load data via like LTE rather than streaming data you have on your desktop. We always ask for clients to be in that 70 plus range, but really if you're 50 or above, you're going to be okay. But let's look at what happens if you have a slow load time. And this is where it can really affect you. So this is a study done a couple of years ago. And basically what it found is what we're looking at here is the conversion rate, the ability of you to convert readers into clients compared to load time. And you'll see that actually the sweet spot is right there at 1 second, 1.65 seconds. I don't know why, if it loads faster than that, it didn't have a higher conversion rate. I think probably there just wasn't a whole lot of data sets to study for that. And so the data might have been a little bit mixed there, but it's pretty hard to get your site to load in under a second. But if you can get your site to load at 1.65 seconds, they found that was the highest conversion rate. But what happens is that it decreases dramatically after that. Really what we're always trying to do, and you can see that that conversion rate is pretty good all the way up until you get to about 2.5 seconds. And then it really starts to drop off. So if you're looking at a page load time of 2 to 2.5 seconds and under, that's good. By the way, you can get that data right there from that Google Page Speed Insights report. Cached under a second. If you can get your web pages under about 1 to 2 megabytes in total size, you're going to be good. But look at what happens. Look at what happens if you're not. Even all it takes is to go down to a 3-second load time, and you're already at half of the conversions. That's a very, very big deal. It is crazy to think that at just 3 to 3.5 seconds, you're losing half of your conversions. And if you get out into the area of 5 and 6 seconds, which is where we see a lot of new clients when we start working with them, 5 to 6 seconds, you're at a third of your conversions. And again, broad data, it's not industry specific, but it's very, very telling and it's very, very important. So what can cause poor site speed? Well, it can be a number of different things. It can be bad hosting, it can be large images, it can be embedded media, you can be using bad plugins or poorly designed apps and widgets. You can have a lot of ads in your site. Your theme could be poor. You could have a lot of extra CSS code. But if you want to boil it down to really what the most common culprits are, typically we're seeing oversized images that are not optimized properly. You don't want to use PNGs. Make sure you're using JPEGs. Compress your images. Do not load uncompressed images. It also can be related to your theme. If you're using an out-of-date web theme or running a lot of plugins, and perhaps having a lot of extra code loading, like maybe some really pretty fonts that you like, but they are slowing your site down. So getting that site sped up is very, very important. Next, we need to make sure that you're on HTTPS or a secure connection, right? You can see in the screenshot right there what happens now in Chrome if you're not on a secure website now, okay? They actually bolt right across the top, not secure for everyone to see. And even if consumers don't understand what that's about, it scares them, right? That's just an alarm bell. So you got to be on secure. It's not that hard. Oftentimes your host can help walk you through it. It's a little bit of an extra fee each year, but it's not only going to be a more secure environment, and you need to be on that if you're selling anything on your website. But even if you're not, it's a better experience for the consumer, and Google needs to see that in order to rank you higher. So here's just a couple examples I just grabbed. They're a little bit old, and so I pulled them at the end of last year when I was doing this presentation, but the concepts still apply. A lot of this is fairly intuitive. A lot of this just is paying attention. Here on this current web page I pulled, which is looks like a plumbing company here locally, you can see that they've got the basics down really well. And so I actually know how this particular company ranks. I know that when I did a general search for plumbing that they showed up fairly high, but look at the basics they have. They have a nice professional logo. It's prominently displayed, very easy to see spot. They have a good header menu across the top there, which has some great, easy to follow steps that you take. As we go down near the bottom of the site, they list their location, which we'll talk about how important that is. They also have their social profiles there. That's a trust factor for Google. Google likes to see that you have other like social platforms pointing to you, because that's what normal businesses have. They also have a site map. They have a privacy policy. These are important things for trust, and Google needs to see these. If you don't have a privacy policy on your site, you need one. They have their copyright and their California license number, okay? These are all very important things nowadays to have online. Depending on your environment that you're in, depending on your niche, these are trust signals. And that's really where we're moving now into on page. You want to show Google that you're as legitimate of a business as possible, that you are a trusted business. Take a step back and think about it. Google's just an algorithm, and they have the really difficult challenge of looking at every local business and trying to determine which ones are the best at what they do. And this might be a little bit easier when it comes to these large national brands, because they have these huge websites, so you can really begin to understand a lot about what they do. But when it comes to these small local businesses where there's thousands or tens of thousands in every locale, how are they doing that? And this is why these factors can be so important. This is why just simply having your location and having it be consistent, having social profiles that help validate that you're active, having things like privacy policies and copyrights, and depending on your industry, having licensing information, having certification proof, having your doctorate or whatever it is as evidence that these are all things that build trust, and trust improves rankings, especially in a local environment, okay? And then here we can see another example of the site, and you can just see it's a lot different, right? There's no logo. Is that bad out of itself? No. You don't have to have a logo to have a good business. There's no navigation, and so it's very difficult to know what to do to this site. Google experiences the same thing when they come to crawl a site. They don't know where to go or what to do if links from the homepage aren't going out to other more informative pages, and if they aren't properly, Google runs into the same challenges that a user does. We scroll down to the bottom, and you can see there's no footer. We can actually see there's multiple lists that conflict with each other for the name, the address, and the phone number. They say that was formerly here and now it's here. Well, that's a bit of a conflict. We have different things, and that's actually very, very confusing. Okay, so let's talk about NAP, as we call it, name, address, phone number, and why it's so important on your website and across all of your properties. So NAP stands for name, address, and it's one of the ways, initially on 10 years ago, 15 years ago, is one of the most important ways that Google validated you as a business. Even to this day, though, NAP is very, very important. And basically, having consistent name, address, phone number, and when we say consistent, we mean very consistent. Having it across all of your properties, saying the exact same thing, is really important, and it's not that hard to do. Okay, and so what that means is developing and establishing exactly what your brand name is, exactly what the address is, and exactly what the phone number is, and then making sure that it's the exact same everywhere across all of your web footprints, all your digital footprints, is absolutely something that we would say is easy to do, and therefore it makes it pretty critical. It establishes a lot of trust for Google. So here's an example. Alpha Run, one of my favorite local restaurants here, really wonderful. However, you can see that this would be an inconsistent NAP, and you're saying, how is that possible, Jared? The only inconsistency we see here is that there isn't a comma after the CA on the Google My Business listing, and there is a comma after the CA on the website. Yes, that actually is an inconsistent. We want it to be completely consistent. If you're going to abbreviate Boulevard as BD period, you do that everywhere. If you're going to have A, determine if you're going to spell sweet or if you're going to abbreviate it. Are you going to use the hash in front of the A or just say sweet A? With your phone number, are you going to use parentheses or are you not? These are types of things you want to establish and then make sure that they're consistent, okay? So get your NAP right. Make sure your website has your consistent NAP and that you have that. So again, just as kind of a review of what we're talking about with a lot of this on-page stuff, we want to make sure that on your website, before I move on to Google My Business here, your website is running fast, okay? As fast as possible. You don't need to sit and obsess over it, but certainly make sure it's above that 50 score on the Google Page Speed Insights. Make sure you're on a secure platform, and then get the basics dialed in. Review your website, make it a good user experience, and build as many trust factors and consistency factors on your website as you possibly can. Show Google that you're trustworthy. Show those, and by the way, this is all experience for your client anyways, so everybody's winning on that. So let's talk about Google My Business. Every local business should have a business account. You can go see if you have one by going to business.google.com and checking. If you don't have one, you want to apply for it. Claim your business. They're going to send you a postcard to ensure that your Google My Business account fully built out. Okay, don't leave anything blank unless you just don't have an answer for it. A lot of people in there, they'll just pop their name in, they'll make sure their address is right, and move on. That's bad. Google My Business is a strong ranking factor for local. We saw that in the Moz report. And so you want to give it as much data as you possibly can. So get in there, business.google.com, and start making sure that everything is in there. Every single field that you can fill out is filled out. You also want to have lots of reviews, okay? And Google My Business is where you manage your Google reviews. Now, there's also other reviews that do help your rankings through Yelp or any industry-specific review platforms. Reviews are a big deal. We talked about that in the Moz report. So if you target Google My Business and reviews, you're really targeting the two of the bigger factors that go into ranking locally. You want to respond to every single review. This oftentimes will surprise clients. And when I tell them that, and then they look at me and they say, do I have to respond to the bad ones? Because let's be honest, getting a bad review does not make you a bad business. You're going to get them. Certainly in this environment, in this world, you're going to get them at times when you don't even deserve them. But yeah, the answer is you need to respond to all of your reviews, the good ones and the bad ones. Try to be contextual in your responses. Try to give context no matter what. Try to be personal. Try to show that you know and understand exactly what is happening. Use a first name if you possibly can. And so that's really vital for you in terms of having to lean into the platform. Don't just let your reviews die. Really make sure that you're responding to your reviews. Put lots of photos in. Obviously, user submitted, your guests are great, but photos from you as a business owner, they help give a lot more context. Accurate NAP, we've talked about NAP. Make sure that that NAP that you established on your website is exactly that way on your GMB or your Google My Business. And a lot of people don't really realize you can post in Google My Business, much like a Facebook post or like an Instagram post, and you should be taking advantage of that as frequently as you can. Now, they say after a week. And so I always tell people you're posting at least per week. And it does help to round out your platform. So here's an example of what it can look like. We're in the maps times where the pulled from, and you can see George's at the Cove, and you can just see the different things we have. We have images that are featured, we have their reviews, we have their description as they've called it, we have their address or NAP, their list name, their address or phone number. It's fully built out here as we would expect from a company like a George's. Here we have, if we can actually drill into some of the photos and look at them. These are from the owner. They're also user submitted, and we can see on how the place looks. And that really helps out a lot for a user, but Google likes to see that you're leaning into the platform. Here we have the reviews, and we have responses. That's great. You want to have reviews with responses. 5-star, 1-star, you want to get in and really respond. Lean into that. Here's an example of a post where they posted something a couple of days ago, and you can see they attached an image to it. And the person is really leaning in a post on their GMP, which is great and recommend. This is kind of what the inside of Google My Business will look like. I was lucky enough to grab my business partner, Caitlin Cooper, here at 201 Creative. She runs a photography company on the side, and uses GMB very, very effectively to drive clients. You can see here that there's a lot of different areas that you can fill out. It gives you a lot of great metrics. You can see that over the last period of time, down on search views, but definitely up on map views. There's some data there. I don't love the data out of GMB for the record, but that's a different story altogether. So take that all with a bit of a grain of salt. It's kind of more general speaking. But this is where you're going to go in on the business.google.com side and make sure that you fill that all out. Let's see here. We're going to skip physical business versus service area. That's usually something we want to talk about when we're in person, and whether or not if you have a physical business or not. So we're going to skip that today because it's an online presentation. So again, recap of Google My Business, okay, and why it's so important. So this is Google's platform. It's Google's local platform, and it's from what Moz, certainly, it's the number factor. Make sure it's fully built out. Get lots of reviews. Again, this is something we talk about a lot when we're doing in-person presentations, but be careful to solicit reviews because each has different. I don't have time to go through each rule for each platform. Like Yelp has different rules in Google, but look into them, please, before you start, and certainly before you start offering different. The goal is reviews, and certainly if your customers had a good experience, get easy for them to provide a review. A lot of that. Respond to those reviews, and then get into Google My Business and take advantage of some of the ongoing things you can do in that platform. Load photos, make sure your NAP is accurate in the section, and post frequently. So let's see, we've talked about on page, we've talked about Google My Business. Let's talk about citations, and let's talk about links, okay? So remember the 5 factors are Google My Business, we've got links, we've got reviews, we've got, let's see, what am I missing? We've got citations are number 5, and then number 4, well, I've got it right in front of me, why am I waiting, is on page. Okay, so we've gone through Google My Business, we've gone through reviews, we've gone through on page. Let's talk about links and citations. So links are real, as are citations. They both do help quite a bit. So we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty about either because we could do an entire presentation about them. And this is an area that a lot of business owners will struggle. Oftentimes, we will get hired to help just in this section for people. Business owners say, hey, I can do Google My Business, I can encourage reviews, and I can get my own page pretty well dialed in and get pretty close. But building this idea of citations and getting links into our site, how do we do that? And so this is sometimes areas where we'll step in, but let's go through some of the basics so you understand what we're talking about when we talk about citations and links. So citations, again, the basic definition is an online mention of your brand. Okay, that's really it. It doesn't have to link out to you. It doesn't have to be. Typically, we like to see a citation include your name, your address, and your phone number, okay, or at least one or part of those, because because that's kind of what the citation does. Is it's a listing of you and your NAP, which helps to validate and build trust. Now, citations used to be more important, and as Google's algorithms have gotten smarter and gotten better at figuring out who is who in local, these have started to decrease in importance. Just to be fair, they still have value though. So that's kind of the catch-22 there is they still have value. At one point, they had a lot more value. They'll still continue to have value, probably in this manner. So what are some examples of citations? Well, if you could get a lot of listings in local directories, national directories, and business listings. So a local directory might be your local chamber of commerce. A national directory might be something more national, all small businesses or your niche. And then a business listing would actually be a specific niche, maybe to chiropractors or plumbers or something like that. Lots of these are free, as a matter of fact, the vast majority. And many of them that aren't spammy, that are actually manually run, and kind of these big link aggregators, anything that passes the sniff test, as we like to say, those are all really valuable for you from a citation standpoint. Now, links are in SEO, certainly local, but also just outside of local and just a broad scheme. Links are kind of the holy grail. I mean, links are like votes online, if you will. So if you were a business, everybody could kind of vote on you, and you had the most votes, you'd win. It's a little bit like that with links. I don't want to say the most links win, but links are like votes to Google, and Google looks at those links as a huge indication of who they should rank. And a site that has more links in their mind is probably more trustworthy, and a site that they don't want to rank higher. So how do you get links? Well, there's a bunch of different ways to get them. First off, if you can make sure that you are participating in getting awards, sponsorship types of things typically come with a link. If they don't, you can oftentimes ask for a link. Hey, thanks for that award. I really appreciate it. Would you mind linking to my site so people know where to go? Links, no matter where you get them from, to be very high authority and to be trusted. We don't want links just for links' sake, okay? High authority meaning from a site or from a place that has really high authority in people's eyes. So if you get linked to from a place of trust, they by nature start to trust you more, okay? The more niche relevant, the better. So if you're a vet clinic, you would love to get links from websites that are in the pet niche. If you specialize in dogs, better getting links from websites in the dog niche is perfect. You can also get shoulder niches, right? So a shoulder niche for a pet site, there's for a vet might be from other animal, from shelters or from animal shelters and animal rescue organizations, these types of things. So you don't have to just stay right within your niche. And again, links in general only focus on your niche, but the niche ones really do help probably the most. So again, in terms of citations, directories are a great place to go. So are listings, as long as they're not spammy. But it's an online mention of your brand, hopefully tied to your name, your address, or your phone number. And links are incredibly valuable. You want to be careful though, because you really want to build them in a manner that is very authentic. You want to try to stick within your niche if possible, but the most important thing is to get them from trusted sites that have a lot of authority in Google's eyes. That's where that authority and that trust will start to get passed on to you. So let's do a quick recap here, right? This is really important stuff, you guys. This is the time where you can take or across a few days and really put time towards improving your local SEO for your business. For a lot of people right now, this is a great time to do. You might have some free time, and this is a great way to use it. The reason it's a great time to do this is because at some point, your business is going to come back if it's down right now. Or if your business is doing well, at some point, you're going to need to rely on something more organic. And that's the thing about SEO, about search engine optimizing your website. It takes a while in the beginning. It does. There's no overnight recipe here that's going to fix things. It's a long strategy, no doubt about it. If you want immediate business, go buy an ad on Facebook or go do a social media campaign, send an email. There's a lot of other things that have immediate results, but they filter and taper off almost immediately as well. SEO is the exact opposite. You're going to put in a lot of time now, but the results are going to start to pay you off, and they're going to continue to increase the better and the better that you do this over time. And those results that come through are organic, right? They're not something you have to manipulate or adjust. And so now is a great time to start laying the building blocks so you can benefit from it later. Ad costs are only going up. It's only becoming harder and harder to get seen in a social media environment. And so again, SEO for your business has really never been more valuable than it is right now. If you need any help with your SEO, we are available, and that's what we do. You can find more information about us at 201create.com. And again, really what you want to do in an environment that you're in right now. A lot of people, to close this educational video here, a lot of people say, well, how do I make a decision about when to start investing in SEO? When is the right time? Obviously, the right time is now, but let's be honest, let's have a real conversation about it. And I tell people that if you can't just go all in right now, if you don't have someone on your team that can help you with this, if you don't have budget to spend on this, or if you don't have time yourself, start small and start to build, right? So maybe you're putting in an hour a week on it now, and as you start to see some results, you can start putting in a couple hours. Maybe you siphon off 10% that you're currently spending on ads, and you say, I'm going to spend 10% of my ad budget on it, and I'm going to start to spend a little bit of money to prove that, whether it be hiring someone to write for your blog every couple of weeks, whether it be getting some citations or some links on business. And then as SEO starts to gain for you, you can start to siphon off more and more of it in proportion to how it's doing for you. So those are a couple different ways to think about SEO right now. You don't need to have a huge budget or a ton of time or a large team. A lot of this stuff can be done with an hour here, an hour there, and we're just thinking intuitively and naturally about how people experience your website and about how you're going to want them to look at it. So thank you so much again for dropping by. If you have any other questions, you can reach me at 201creative.com or through my handles that you have here in my social media handles that you have here in the show notes. Thank you again.